yeah, we are in the place to be,
Hi ho, GB Mythos here, and welcome to the Little Old People Podcast. I'm here with my co-old person, Mark.
Hey, Kate, hey, the little black dude.
If this is your first time listening, we're two oldish nerds looking at random fandoms from varying directions. I'm a historian and archaeologist by degree and a former wage slave by trade. Mark's a jeweler, YouTuber, and fellow fan enthusiast.
That is correct.
It has been a very, very long time, so I'd like to welcome all of you back to the podcast. Today,
We have missed you. We have missed you so much.
We have indeed. And today we are talking about something that might be considered vaguely controversial. We are talking about the new Amazon TV show that comes out on September 2nd called The Rings of Power.
Sounds like something that should be an 80s cartoon, but I can accept this.
I have the power!
Oh!
Said Jeff Bezos as he was granted access to the Silmarillion.
That's a layered joke for you guys.
Today, it's been about a week and a half since, as of recording, it's been about a week and a half since the posters were released, and we got a first glimpse of the characters, costumes, and some of the actors that are going to be starring in the show. And as soon as that information was released, the internet proceeded to disappoint us on every level that it was possible to disappoint a human being. Now, I personally, again, as I'm sure many of you may or may not know, am a giant Tolkien nerd. And I have been for about 20 years. Dyed in the wool at this point. Mark, not as much, but he understands the world enough to be able to appreciate the aesthetics of everything that's happening.
Yes, and being a person who understands how fanboys can both make things better and make things worse by sucking at who they are, I am invested in this as well because I want more than anything else for us all to be able to enjoy the things that are being made and not destroy each other over things that really, in the grand scheme of things, don't matter.
Now, granted, when the Sonic movie came out, the fanboys went on a power trip that actually got Sonic's designs changed in a good way because, frankly, it was kind of frightening looking the way that he was.
And we got another sequel out of it, too. I'm very happy about it.
Exactly. However, that particular useful power trip went to their heads. And now we are dealing with something that I, as a person who was introduced to Tolkien first through the movies, then through the books, have experienced literally from minute one, gatekeeping. So much gatekeeping. And not just, you can't play in my sandbox because you're not a quote real fan because you've only seen the movies, therefore you don't quote really know what's going on. But this is racist gatekeeping, which is just my favorite.
Now, please keep in mind, those of you who have never seen us or haven't been paying attention to our logo, we are both two Black Americans. We have experienced these kinds of things all our lives. So it's not like we're speaking from someplace where we're just commentating on it because we happen to be woke. No, we are people who have dealt with this because for some reason, the mentality of geeks and nerds always seem to be pale-skinned, and I have not figured out why.
Yeah, and that anyone who happens to be of a even slightly cocoa-ish shade of brown is instantly not a nerd, instantly doesn't know what they're doing, and instantly is not welcome to play in their pond. We are about to talk about, and I will be reading some of the comments that I've been seeing over the last few days on Instagram. I will be reading them anonymously. I will not be reading people's names, but you know who you are. And if you're offended, I'm talking to you. These are the same people who claim and clapped and cheered when a letter was found that Tolkien responded to the Nazi Party when they wrote to him asking him if it was all right if they republished his books in German, and they wanted to know just in case if he was Jewish. And he responded to them saying that, no, I am not a member of that noble and venerable race. And essentially, you may not publish my books, and I am not going to join your party, and you can fuck off. He just said it in nicer language. These same people applauded, cheered this, and said, way to go, Tolkien. Way to not give in to the Nazis.
Because unfortunately, not giving in to the Nazis is probably the lowest bar possible. And sadly, during the past, I'd say 10 years, it's been a hard one for people to clear.
And so We have many characters that are going to be introduced to us through this new show. Some are new, some are not, some are familiar names, some are background characters that would have normally that Tolkien just kind of skimmed over. We know that Arundel is going to be in it. We know that Isildur had sisters who, again, because Tolkien didn't really name the women in his series that much, didn't really have a name. So they've given a sister of his a name. People are complaining about this. Why are people complaining? Because she's not canon. It merely says unnamed female, which means you can call her whatever in the hell you want. But apparently giving her a name is a problem. Some people just can't deal with it. And it's frustrating. Listening to comments like, this show might end up being the most expensive mistake. Woke of the Rings could scarcely find anyone that looks less like Elrond in regards to the actor that's playing him. You're talking about a character that's over 3,000 years old. Maybe he changed as time goes on. Yes, elves don't necessarily physically get older, but just because you don't physically get older doesn't mean that your face doesn't change. Some of that weariness might not show in your skin. And as far as his hair is concerned, because I've been listening to people bitch about him having short hair, do you think you would spend your entire existence if you literally had forever with one hairstyle?
Yeah, my reaction when told that this was the problem people were having, I said, these are elves, not Saiyans. Calm down. Please keep in mind as well, I have never read the Silmarillion. I have no knowledge of this. So a lot of these characters I am being introduced to for the first time. And finding out some of the facts about them, finding out the story behind them, I'm trying to figure out why people who have been self-professed fans and or scholars of these series are so offended and so upset by the fact that characters that they cared about are not being represented the way they think they should be, even when it doesn't actually make that much of a difference as long as the series itself is carrying the story. Who cares whether or not a person of color is playing a character? Who cares whether or not that person's hair is a certain way? Who cares so long as the story itself is being told in the proper spirit? That's how I feel.
And all we're looking at is photos of these people. We have not seen these characters in action. We have not heard word the first from them. So we don't know what these characters are like. These are the snap judgments that people are making. Comments such as this. Elrond is supposed to be ethereally beautiful, and this dude's over here looking like Beavis. I threw up a little, I'll be honest.
Wow.
I wanted to give this a chance, but the hair. You haven't seen anything. You literally know nothing. I don't understand the amount of... I understand that when you read a book and it gets turned into a series, that obviously the characters are not going to look the way you envision them in your head because everybody and their grandmother is going to see them differently. I understand that. You cannot project the image that you have into your head for someone else to see. And even if you could, the person next to you is not going to have that same image. And so there's definitely going to be fight. Compromise must be gained. I realize that some characters, yes, they are described certain ways in the book. However, sometimes liberties have to be taken. And I'm sorry, but if hair is the hill you're willing to die on, I'm going to say something that I don't particularly like myself for saying, but are you really a true fan if that's really the hill you need to die on?
A good example of this comes from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. When describing the character Ford Prefect, he was described as being unusually tall and unusually pale. So when the movie came out and they cast Mos Def as the character Ford Prefect, a couple of friends of mine who were giant fans of the Hitchhiker's Guide were like, no, this should not be him. And even though that movie did not do anywhere near as well as it could have, Mos Def is a fantastic actor and made his way through that entire movie showing the mannerisms that fit Ford Prefect. Did it matter that he was a 5'8" black dude? Not as much as you'd think. So with that in mind, it's always easier for me to look at something and say, let's see how it goes. Yes, there are going to be times where I say to myself, yeah, I'm not gonna let it slide so much. but only when it's something that actually matters to the story of a series. I'm not going to be mad about the characters being played by a certain person. I'm going to be mad about whether or not that person can act like that character. And as Captain Sama said earlier, we have not heard word the first yet.
And I'm sorry, but if I see a post that shows a picture of somebody Black and then the words, "Is that okay? No offense," I'm offended. You know why? Because when you say no offense, you know what you say is offensive and you're saying it anyway.
Yep.
That's what devil's advocate is. It means you're deliberately taking the bad side, but continuing to argue your point, even though you know you're wrong.
Having an opinion is an important thing. But when your opinion is immediately something that can be offensive, might want to take a few moments and think about what's about to come out your face. That's just how I feel.
As long as we get a white people tribe in Wakanda now, you know, for diversity.
Oi, that one actually hurt. That one actually hurt. Not because I think that it's a bad thing, but because why is that the statement? Seriously, why is that the statement? Why would you choose to say something like that about a continent that has pretty much been over-colonized?
Thank you.
Why? Why would you do that? I get it. You don't agree. I can understand that you don't agree. But keep it in context, please. Because otherwise, you make yourself look quite the fool to anyone who actually has two civilized thoughts back to back.
Black people everywhere. Why is that the comment, the first thing that comes to your mind?
I think it's more frustrating because there are Black people everywhere, like most developed countries. So why are people surprised that there are Black actors who get cast into series because they are good actors?
Here's somebody that's not an asshole. Amazon is not making Elrond Black, Galadriel Chinese, or Durin an Indian. There are new characters with new backgrounds that will elevate the show. Let's judge the content of the story versus skin pigmentation of those who wear elf, human, or dwarf clothing.
See, I like it when you have someone who actually thinks before they type.
Here's another one. Please tell me why skin color is so integral to a fantasy race and the story of the character. Why is whiteness important here? It's not. Thank you, person.
Mm-hmm. See, I enjoy that as well, because this is a person who is looking at the actual thing going on. Oh, there is a story that we have not gotten to see in, a live action of some sort. Let's concentrate on that instead of how offended we are that there are, not white people that are in it.
Yeah, I don't mean to keep dunking on people, but I have to say...
please, keep dunking on people, because sometimes it needs to be done. Let's be honest. A good friend is the one that will tell you when you're messing up.
Well, this person had a very long comment, but actually it's good. My God, it's a bloody fantasy film in a fantasy genre. Even if the elves or the men or the dwarfs of Middle-earth are described as being white in the books, Lord of the Rings, Silmarillion, or otherwise is still just bloody fantasy. It's made up. Tolkien probably wrote them mainly as white characters because at the time there wasn't the same understanding and drive to make characters and stories more culturally diverse. And even if it was specifically written as mainly white characters because it's based off of Anglo-Saxon culture, it's still made up. You could have anyone of any race as any of the kinds of characters in it. That's that. If you have a problem with that, it's because you're just not used to seeing it in Lord of the Rings, which in a way I understand because it's new to the image that you have of the universe. But if you still have a problem, then that's just racist. Because racism doesn't always have to mean just saying the N-word and being openly hateful. It means things like excluding Black people and other people of color from something like this because you're not used to it, and it makes you uncomfortable under the guise of, it's not the source material. Correct yourself, learn, and move on.
There needs to be an applause. There
Yes.
absolutely needs to be an applause.
Yes.
Because whoever that was friggin' nailed it.
Yes.
This person understood the homework.
They did. They understood the assignment.
Yes.
Here's another person that understood the assignment. Oh my God, you guys are so sad. Neither movies were perfect, and neither will this be. It's very hard to stay exact to the books. Get over it. We haven't seen it yet, so there's no reason to be this upset. Calm down and grow up. Yes.
Absolutely.
Applause.
Yes. It is always refreshing to see that there are people who still have some damn sense.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going to disappoint you as I read these. These are different comments from different people. I'm calling the police. A Negro princess. Poor Tolkien. Why a nigga elf? Black nigga elf. This doesn't look like Lord of the Rings at all. I'm not going to watch this bullshit. I don't need a lesson in diversity.
Like seriously, just that sentence proves you need a lesson in diversity.
Thank you. You just told on yourself.
Mm-hmm. For those of you who cannot see us, which is pretty much everyone, after the first comment, both mine and my good friend's eyebrows shot to our hairlines and stayed there for the duration, just so you know.
I love this one. They can't spell.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, sure. Black characters. Also, Tolkien has been sacrificed to politically correct diktat.
Wow.
I
wish we were sponsored by Grammarly right now.
I know, right?
Yeah.
How about
Grammarly.
Webster? Merriam-Webster.
Uh-huh. Oh, seriously. Grammarly. Hit us up. We need that sweet money.
Read a book. Read a book. Read a
fucking book.
REAEDBO.
Yay! Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Complete side note for that, because I absolutely love that song, by the way. I played that for a good friend of mine. He almost fell out of his chair laughing at me. He loved every bit of it.
The first time I heard that, I literally had the person play it again. I was just like, no, play that for me again, and then play it for me one more time. That is the funniest damn thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yes. Such good advice, and in such a palatable manner.
Buy some land, not spinning rims.
Your body needs water, so drink that shit. You see, good advice is always a useful thing.
Exactly.
Here's some more. Pay attention, because the world is not one color.
Thank you. Here's another person that does get it. Imagine being a person of color, child or young adult fan of fantasy worlds like Tolkien's, and you see all the ignorant people getting upset that there are black characters in this new adaptation. You can't be overly upset about a fictional character's skin color and say you're not racist. I am very disheartened and disappointed at this community as a person of color fan. This is an opportunity for young and old people alike to feel like they can relate more and that they belong in this fandom, and those alike. It has nothing to do with politics, unless you bring politics into it. Would you tell a person of color cosplaying as Galadriel and etc. that they were wrong and they can't play that character because of their skin? No, you wouldn't.
Unfortunately, there are plenty who would. That is the saddest part.
Yeah. No, you wouldn't, unless you're ignorant. Stop complaining and don't watch it if you're so bothered by it.
We get this all the time. We get this all the time. There was a period of time where I only chose characters that looked absolutely nothing like me, just so I could cosplay them and blow people's minds.
Yep.
And I'm not even that good of a cosplayer. I just loved the idea of being a black man cosplaying as characters who were not black because I liked the characters.
And as a
These are things we can do.
And as a gender non-conforming person, I'm sorry, but it is very difficult for me to cosplay characters because none of the characters that I want to cosplay fit in any specific role necessarily, and I don't present as that person necessarily. So it's doubly hard for me to cosplay. But I did the same things. I would pick the characters that I liked, and then I would blow people's heads off because I'm sorry, I don't have to listen to your ignorant ass tell me I can't cosplay this person. Oh, because well, you're not white, or you're not Japanese, or you're not a girl, or you're not a guy. Well, I'm sorry, but this is the character I like, and this is the character that I want to play.
Old memories that I'm very happy about. When I saw you at Otakon in that Gothic Lolita dress up that you had going on, you looked fan-frickin-tastic. Additionally, you made a hell of a gin. Samurai Champloo is an excellent series. If you have not seen it, do it. It will fantastically improve your life. Oh my God, I love that.
My favorite memory from that con was I spent the entire time I was there looking around and finding every foo I could find and taking pictures of it, because that was the ship that I sailed, and every single one of them was excited to take pictures with me because there were no djinns. Everybody wanted to play Mugen.
Because Mugen the breakdancing samurai was the quote-unquote cool one. Don't get it messed up. I do like Mugen, but I am much more like Jin, so I related to him.
Hells yes. But that's off topic. All right, so let's get back to being disappointed in ourselves and everyone of our generation.
Much that we absolutely love doing this to ourselves, but yes, let's go ahead and do this.
Brah, they got Black Lives Matter in Lord of the Rings.
Oi.
No. Why? Black actors. No hate, but they don't fit in. I can't explain, but just no.
Really? Really? Did you really? Really? Like, that's all I've got for something that is that poorly thought out. That's all I have. Like, if I wouldn't be as upset if you were being at least creative in your ignorance. I'd be like, you know what? I disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it if you weren't sounding like a complete moron doing it.
No. Please don't rape the masterpiece. Looks worryingly diverse.
Worryingly?
Worryingly.
Wow.
Somebody else. It got racist in here real fast. Yeah, it did. All the racist, homophobic comments in here are making me ashamed of being a Lord of the Rings fan. The mere presence of us means that they've gone woke, I guess. What a joke these comments are. The comments under the original post were filled with racists. Disgusting to find even more here. Y'all need to get the fuck over it. Not everything Tolkien wrote is beyond reproach. His work had spots that needed improvement. Deal with it. And this is the kind of thing that we put up with every day. We don't talk about it because it's just part of being Black in America.
Unfortunately, but yes. You see, and this is one of the things that does make it very difficult because of where I grew up, okay? I am born and bred from southern New Jersey, okay? The city I'm from is fairly diverse. So all my life, I did not realize just how racist America still was. I thought racism was over because I had white friends and Hispanic friends and Asian friends, and I didn't experience anything like that until I was a teenager. Because the second that I looked like a scary Black man, then everything freaking changed. Okay. The things that we experience just from existing are the things that we're trying to escape from when we watch a series like The Rings of Power. We are trying to escape from those mentalities that make us think less of ourselves, even when we think highly of ourselves. But the mere sight of us is somehow taking away from a series that is well written. So what exactly are you expecting to happen because there are Black people around? Do you think what is going to happen? Are they going to switch from like Elizabethan sounding English to, watermelon theater? Do you expect everybody who happens to be, darker complected to, instead of having a British accent, sound something like this right here? What are you expecting? What makes having people of color in a series that is written in a fantastical style, why does that scare you so bad? And why does it make it seem like it's going to be worse? I can't understand why. I do, however, have my moments where I'm like, but why change the race of a character? But at the same time, does it really matter all that much? Case in point, Baxter Stockman from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In the original comics in 1984, he was a black dude. I didn't know this because I was too young to read those particular comics because they were a lot grittier than what we got in the 87 TV show.
Yeah.
The 87 show, he was a white guy, a bumbling white dude that turned himself into a fly. But that's neither here nor there. Did not know. All I knew was Baxter Stockman. He was an inventor. He's the dude that built the Mousers. He turned himself into a fly. That's all I knew. I did not find out that he was a black character originally until just before the 2003 show came out. I was like, wait, what? What? I was confused at first, but it didn't take away from the character because he was still Baxter Stockman. He was still the same creator of the Mousers. He was still the same, loyal to Shredder character. Didn't matter that he was black or white. It absolutely didn't. It didn't change anything. And whether or not people agree with me, I very much believe casting Tyler Perry as Baxter Stockman in that movie was the right choice because he looks the part.
Yes.
Period. With that being said, it does not take away from the substance of the source material because you have a black person playing a character. Do you know how many people didn't know Idris Elba was English because he was that damn good at what he was doing on Oz?
Yep.
It's the same concept. What voice are you expecting? What do you think a black actor is going to do? I don't see how having people of color in a show immediately ruins it. I don't. I do not.
I agree. I 100% agree. And this person says something very similar. I think people forget that, quote, white people are also a lot of different races. Should we be mad that the trilogy cast Americans in a British fantasy film? It's almost like people are taking more issue with the color of the actor's skin, which is pretty alarming. I love these stories as much as the next Tolkien fan, but it is a fantasy story. This is the real world, where real actors should be cast if they're good enough person for the role, regardless of skin color.
Yes, exactly.
Somebody else. What, bro? They include one black person and everybody gets in a tiff. That made me giggle.
Because it's the truth.
Oh yeah, I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's one of those, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. But I'm past the point of crying. I've never been at the point of crying. I'm so past crying that I don't really get mad anymore. I'm just disappointed. Which honestly is worse than mad from a black person. Let's be honest here. Yes. Because when you get us to the point of disappointed, it means that at one point, you had some of our respect. You had some of it, a little bit. What a normal human being interacting with other normal human beings should have. And then you opened your mouth. That is an issue. And it really should not be the issue we're dealing with in the damn future. At least we claim this is the future, but based on these comments, I'm pretty sure it's 1935. Like this one. Woke culture is ruining everything. I can't watch anything new anymore. This shit makes me want to curl up in a ball and cry. All right. I want to take a few moments here and just ask this question. What is defined as woke culture? That's what I would really like to know. I hear that thrown around all the time. I hear people say, oh, this is because people are being woke and woke culture and woke people are ruining everything. What exactly does that mean? Like, just in general, what does it mean? I'm as confused as you are, but I think it's intended to mean that there's diversity. Everybody doesn't look like Leave It to Beaver. If that's all if that's all there is to it, then I'm pretty sure that's all there is to it. We've wasted so much energy. We really have. We really have. I can understand people not liking change because of the way that my mind works. Changing things does mess with me. But I am not going to be the person who says every change is bad no matter what. And I'm going to be offended and angry and shout from the rooftops over every change that's being made.
changing things isn't necessarily a terrible thing, because if we didn't, we'd still be beating each other with sticks and covered in dung, you say.
Further back than that, if change was not a thing, we would still be single-celled organisms floating in a ooze somewhere. Change happens. I'm sorry, it happens. You're gonna have to get over it.
Yep. And in all honesty, showing people who exist to other people who exist is not a bad thing.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, but when people got angry when The Hobbit came out about Toriel as a quote non-canon character, one of the saddest things I ever read was a story. There was a story, an article that I was reading, and there was a woman who was writing this article, and she said when she was a child, she used to pretend that the crows in the story were girls so that she could see a female character, so that she could feel that there was a female character in the book. Crows have like 4 lines. They go and deliver a message, and that's it. She said when her daughters would pretend they were playing Lord of the Rings, they would fight over who got to play Arwen. And then when the second movie came out, then, they saw Eowyn, and now there were 2 female characters, so they were super excited about that. But that stuck with me, the thing about the crows, because that's really sad. When you have to pretend, when in your mind you have to create the idea that an animal with almost no lines that shows up practically at the end of the story counts as representation for yourself, what does that say about the representation or lack thereof that one receives?
Exactly. That
speaks volumes to me. I'm not sure about the genders of most of the people in these comments, and frankly, it's irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
Because that is not what the focus is. The focus here is on pictures that they have seen about a show that still has not yet even been aired, and they are already trying to burn the internet down because they saw 2 brown people. Let's hope there is no LGBT or feminist themes. I can't wait to watch the first episode and to hate every second of it.
So don't. Either don't watch it or don't hate it. Whichever one, just don't.
Fuck woke culture. Go woke, go broke.
Disney would have some things to say about that, because they have been doing some work in that direction, going more in the direction of culturally based things, using people from those cultures to represent things, doing some actual freaking research, and they got more money than God in some days. So I don't think that makes a lot of sense to say. Just my opinion.
So it was not enough that they destroyed Star Wars and Marvel. Now they must destroy the best that exists. Somebody had a problem with that too.
Oh, wonderful. As another wonderful aside, these are the same kinds of attitudes that we deal with in the cosplay community. Yes, we were speaking about that earlier. One of the ladies I interviewed at Anime Next 2019, she was cosplaying as Axel from Kingdom Hearts.
Nice.
Her costume was friggin' excellent. She had actually 3D printed a sword she designed, all while being legally blind, by the way.
Awesome.
Which makes her that much cooler, in my opinion. But because she is a bigger girl, a lot of people who were in the cosplay community that were doing photo shoots with a number of different characters didn't want her there because she didn't look like the character. Like, we want character accurate cosplayers, was what they told her. What the heck? If you see a person who put the kind of effort that she put into what she was doing to make her costume as good as it possibly could be, I really don't see why her not being 100 pounds makes a difference.
Yeah, it doesn't. I'm sorry, but some of the best cosplayers I've ever seen are plus size cosplayers. And you know what? That's irrelevant because they put their time and the effort into that costume. They thought about it. They made it to their size. It looks fantastic. So yeah, that just this is just a lasagna of bullshit and stupidity, and I can't stand it. I'll read a few more of these, and then I would like to change the subject and talk more about the posters themselves and what we actually think they look like, as opposed to these idiots.
I would love to do exactly that.
But here's some more disappointment in humanity. Go woke, go broke. Hope this fails big time. How to do exactly the opposite in a piece of art and throw it in the waste can. Fake The Lord of the Rings. Hashtag stop ruining the lore. Ah, yes, black people. My favorite part from the books. God, this looks like it's going to have so many issues. I'm glad they checkmarked all the woke boxes. Diversity over continuity. I see, we all know how well that does. Fart noises. Nigga elf. Another woke shit. Boycott. If they fuck this up with their woke BS, so it begins. Worse than I expected. Completely missed the point of Tolkien's story and universe, one based on European heritage and customs. Evil cannot create, it can only corrupt indeed.
I wonder if that person understands irony.
No, they couldn't even spell it even if you wrote it out for them. Oh, here's one. Elves in the Hood. Hashtag get woke, go broke.
I wish I could find words. I really wish I could find words.
What the fuck are these, quote, Lord of the Rings photos? Seriously, this ends any fan's day. Any fans? No, just yours. How difficult is it, being the most expensive series in history, to remain faithful to Master Tolkien? Surely these pictures are a joke. My eyes are bleeding. Disgusting. That is exactly what we feared. Why? Poop emoji. What to mess up like this create a new fucking series? I guess they forgot English by the time they got to the end of their statement.
They probably had a stroke somewhere along there from the sheer ridiculousness of all of what they were saying.
Yes. Ruining it with blackwash. Boycott all the way.
Okay. For the record, as you said, and as I have seen, 2 black people. Two.
Who?
How is this blackwashing? For serious.
It's not even black-ish.
Yes. Like dead serious.
They picked the lightest black guy they could find and still call him black, and you guys are complaining that it's blackwashed.
Now, with that being said, I am going to say I did have my issues with certain characters being whitewashed in a series, but I never, ever, ever said that was the reason something was going to be bad. For example, I did a review of Ghost in the Shell. Yes, I had an issue with starting to have a little, rage moment here because I am flashing back. Oh, yeah, there you go. Yes, Scarlett Johansson. Yes. No, I remember writing that review after sitting through that movie and it hurting so daggone much. She was not the problem. She was a problem, but not because she was white when the character was Japanese. She was a problem because she missed the point of the actual character. And I said that after watching the movie. And I was upset that it had been remade after watching the trailer and saying, why didn't they just leave the original movie alone? It had nothing to do with the races of the people playing the characters. It had to do with the fact that the story had gotten pulled apart, stuck back together in ways that didn't make sense. And then they said, oh, wait, we need stuff for the trailer. Let's completely recreate these famous scenes shot for shot. So it looks like we did some work. That was how I felt. Okay.
Fair.
It had nothing to do with a white person being in a role for a person who should have been Japanese. And then, even with that, after watching the movie and realizing that the way they wrote it, she wasn't even supposed to be the major we knew.
Correct.
So it sucked even more of that out of me. I was like, okay, so let's not be mad about that. And let's be mad about all the things that they fucked up for real, instead of just, oh my God, white person.
Yeah, exactly. Be mad about what they actually messed up and not stuff that inconsequential like this.
Mm-hmm. Or more pointed out to where we are now, emotional damage.
I love this comment. So many triggered snowflakes in these comments. Y'all sound really emotional. It must be hard living in the real world when you're so sensitive about fictional characters.
Zelda, why would they ruin my favorite game?
Yeah.
Ego Raptor does a whole thing about that in a half-hour-long comparison of Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, and Ocarina of Time. And I love every bit of it because he's comparing things critically, which is what we should be doing right now.
Yes.
Instead of saying, oh, Lord, there's black people, they don't care about Tolkien's writing.
Mm-hmm.
No, there are black people because they are actors.
Yeah.
Come on. There's plenty of us, even though Hollywood doesn't seem to want to cast us. There's like, what, 8 people in Hollywood that we get to see over and over again?
Pretty much, yeah.
Mm.
They've been deemed the non-threatening, non-scary ones, you forget.
Yeah.
The
real world has lots of people.
Look at all these salty people. That's another comment that made me giggle.
Oh.
I love this one. Okay, I surrender to your hopelessness. You clearly don't get that fictional/fantasy doesn't mean whatever I want. A fictional world has internal consistency, which is what makes Tolkien work so great, among other things. Black dwarves work perfectly for me. I hope that there are a lot of great movies about it, but they were not included in Tolkien's world. As simple as that. And by calling me a snowflake, I think you've clarified your level.
Mm.
But this person is being kind of snowflakey. And I don't understand so much racism.
Yes. I will at least give this person a single point. Single point. Because they actually thought about it before they wrote.
Yes.
That is the only point you get. You stopped and thought before you opened your mouth instead of just saying nigga elf.
I'll give him 2 points. The words are all spelled correctly.
Okay, 2 points. I can work with it. Yes. Nega elf. That one's hurting. Like the sheer number of people who did that one.
Yeah.
That's what bothers me.
Those are only the 3 or 4 that I read. There were a lot of those. Yeah. And those weren't the ones that were on the official site. It got to a point where I just could not read the comments anymore.
I don't blame you.
Because, and I think that was kind of the point of a lot of these comments, was simply to break one's spirit. I won't say that it broke me, but it just reinforced my lack of faith in humanity in general. However, there was also an article that popped up that says Amazon's Lord of the Rings of Power producer responds to diversity backlash. The producer was already ahead on this one.
Because unfortunately, we know when some crazy shit's about to happen these days because it's always happening.
Yes, and the fact that they even had to take a preemptive strike is also telling. Quote, it felt only natural to us to make an adaptation of Tolkien's work that would reflect what the world actually looks like. Tolkien is for everyone. His stories about his fictional races are doing their best work when they leave the isolation of their own cultures and come together. Obviously, there was going to be push and backlash, but the question is, from whom? Who are these people that feel so threatened or disgusted by the idea of an elf as a Black, Latino, or Asian? End quote.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. 1 second. Because I think I just heard a mic drop somewhere. Dead freaking serious. There should be a mic drop.
Yes. It just...
Because we know this is what's going to happen. That's the saddest part of the whole thing. It doesn't matter if there's like race changes or gender changes or anything like that. You already know whatever is put out that is based on a well-beloved series, you're gonna have these people. that are like, oh, this looks terrible. It's going to be horrible. There's no way this is ever going to be any good. Nobody understood the source material as well as I did. So, of course, it's going to be bad. You get that no matter what. But when it's, oh, there's people of color. Oh, there's gay people. Oh, there's trans people. It's immediately going to be bad. Really? You don't think that these are people who actually know what they're doing? You don't think that these are actually actors? People who have studied the theater? You don't think that, what do you think, that they just ran out on the street and grabbed the first gay guy they saw and threw him on stage? Do you think that they were like, we need black people, and just waited for the line? Seriously, why? Why is this the thing we're doing?
And yet, people will still argue against those statements. Quote, I like how the comments section unanimously agrees on this being a bad idea. Well said, my fellow lore lovers. Except no one's unanimously agreeing. I mean, a lot of people do agree with this person, unfortunately, but they're wrong. Cringe. What the world actually looks like. When Americans say the world, they mean the USA. So apparently black people don't live in any other parts of the world. Just FYI. We only live in America.
Yeah, that's the only place you can find us. Yeah. Yeah, not an entire continent of people who look like us. Yeah,
No. My mom didn't spend almost a year living there. It's fine for work, and they took one look at her and went, oh, you're from this tribe and from that part of the coast. Cool.
The sheer
a diverse Middle Earth is as cringe as a diverse Wakanda.
Really? Because nah, I get it. There are people who were frustrated by a movie with a 90% black cast because God forbid. But for real?
This other person here, not everything has to be diverse.
I'm trying.
Here's that person posted twice. Oh God, I roll. This is exactly what I didn't want. They're politicizing Middle Earth just like they did Star Wars. Just stop.
Because Coruscant was not a seat of power of any kind at all. Yeah, there's no politics in Star Wars.
No. And there's no diversity of races, actual races, because if you use the term race correctly, as Tolkien does with a capital R, you are talking about dwarves, men, hobbits, and elves. Those are races. That is the only way he uses that word. The men of Gondor, men of Rohan, the men of the Harad. They're all men. Capital M. Elves of Lindon, the elves of Mirkwood, the elves in Lothlorien, the elves in Rivendell, are all capital E elves. Hobbits, capital H, live in the Shire. Those are races. That is what Tolkien means when he says the race of insert. He's not talking about the color of their skin. He's talking about what kind of creature they are.
You would think that a group that wants more than anything for the things that they love to be accepted by everyone would be a lot more capable of being accepting of everyone. This gives me very little hope. People get on nerds like us all the time, no matter what we look like, because what we like is so strange and so weird. Why don't you grow up and stop playing around with your dolls or whatever? You would think that a culture full of people who have been shit on just because of who they are wouldn't be shitting on people because of who they are.
You'd think. This one person made a good comment. These comments made me sad and angry at first, but I follow a Black Lord of the Rings creator on TikTok and saw a video he just posted and how happy he was a person of color was being introduced into the show. Seeing that video made all these hateful comments being disguised as, quote, Tolkien purists melt away. I am choosing to be open and happy about this new show. The rest of you can wallow in your bitterness. LOL. And they're absolutely correct.
I 100% agree. When it comes to this kind of stuff, I've always said this, and I believe this 100%, that inclusion is important, but not just to tick a box. Not just to say, hey, we've got this person. Hey, we've got that person. These are not character traits. It's great to have people who are different. Yes, very important. But making that the only reason they're there? Nah, not great. Not great at all. And the fact that this is the way we respond to this shit, that's the part that bothers me.
People.
Mm-hmm.
2 people.
2. Cannot emphasize enough. 2. 1, 2.
Every time my family goes to the store and the 3 of us get out of the car, we're like, oh, don't be alarmed, we're Negroes. You know, as if 3 of us are a riot going into anywhere.
Oh, please. Anytime that more than 3 of us are standing anywhere, we're a gang.
Yes. And this is the alarm that is being created over 2 people. 2.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Once again, cannot emphasize enough. 2. And there are those who are going to listen to this. And they're going to be like, oh, these 2 must be woke too. So, no, we're expressing this because it's a problem that shouldn't even exist right now.
No, I'm not woke. I'm tired.
Yep.
I'm tired and I'm damn disappointed.
Yep.
I should be neither of those things. Yes, we say that we're old, but we're not. We're old emotionally.
Very.
We're old inside because we've been dealing with this bullshit since before we were born. I'm not tired because I'm woke. I'm tired because I'm disappointed. And I'm going to keep saying it. I am disappointed!
I am going to say one sentence, though, so that you, dear listener, will understand the mentality that I have as a human being who recognizes that I am of African descent, living in a country that has all different types of people. We are not saying this. We are not making a point of saying anything about this because we don't like white people. We are not doing this because we feel like all white people are racist. One of the things I will continue to say till the life leaves my body is not all white people are racist. Neither of us think so. However, it's damned difficult to believe that over and over again when this is what happens. When one of us shows up, there is nothing wrong with us existing. So why are you so angry about us existing? That's the issue. That is the problem.
There's a scene in Scary Movie where there's already a black guy at a party and another one shows up and the first guy goes, oh, I didn't know you were here. It's like, sorry, man, I already got this locked down. They shake hands and the second guy leaves. I laughed like an idiot because that is essentially what happens in movies when there is one black character. It's like, oh man, sorry, we can't have 2 of us in here. Oh yeah, I know. Sorry about that. You already got this one. These are your white people. Sorry, I'm out.
Yes.
Why? Why does that have to be a thing?
I wish I had an answer. I really do, because then I probably would be slightly less angry because I would at least have something. Even when something is wrong, when you know why it's happening, it at least gives you some kind of closure. It doesn't make it better. It doesn't make it go away, but at least you know there's a reason for it. I haven't seen reason 1 for any of this outrage.
No, none. I have not. I've seen no decent. Okay, I lied. I'm lying. Let me back up slightly. I have seen one decent reason for some targeted anger, and that is because the character of Princess Giza is a female dwarf who doesn't have a beard. In Tolkien's Legendarium, female dwarves have beards. This particular character is displayed without one. Perhaps that is something they will change. That's the only thing I can see being upset about right now. Literally, that's it.
And I can see that because that is something that is a part of the lore. It is a part of the way the characters are being represented that comes from the stories. I can at least understand that. With that said, Princess Diza can get it all day, every day, twice on Sunday. Beard or no, she can get it.
She looks awesome.
Yes, she does.
Very, very excited to see a female dwarf.
I am excited to see somebody get them hands. She looks like she can whip some ass.
I have been over the last, 5 years now. It's been almost since The Hobbit came out, crewing and manning my own ship of Princess D's, mother of Philly and Killy, sister to Thorin and King Thranduil. I know, it's a rare pair. Most people aren't going to ship it. I don't know why I came up with it. The idea popped into my head and I started writing because I was like, this sounds like it could be kind of amazing because the Thranduil is dwarf racist party dad. He hates dwarves. And here's a woman who's lost everything, potentially having to go back to her home and encounter this man. What would it be like if they met each other? And then my brain just took off down the road like a bullet train, and it has not stopped since.
These are the fun things that happen from fan fiction.
Exactly. And I love it so much. So being able to see a female dwarf was something I was very excited about. I'm a little disappointed about the beard, but I will get over it. And we know we can make acceptable looking female characters with beards because I'm sorry, and a lot of people didn't really care for this movie. But if you saw the movie Greatest Showman, there is one of the bearded lady that's in that. She looks amazing. She looks absolutely gorgeous. She is actually a Hawaiian actress. She can sing beautifully. The song that she sings, This Is Me, is one of the best songs in that movie. And one of my favorite memories is driving around with all of us sitting in the car belting out This Is Me at the top of our lungs. I love that. So we can make women with beards look perfectly acceptable. Yeah,
and
see?
now that I have seen the picture, yes, I see what you mean.
See, she looks awesome.
Mm-hmm. Although, this is just me. Take this however you want, because I absolutely loved who I am about to compare her to. She kind of reminds me of Delta Burke.
Yeah, and not in a bad way.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yes, the image that I'm looking at looks fantastic.
So they could have made it work. So maybe that's something that they'll work on a little bit. But beyond that, I'm not going to complain because you know what? I haven't heard one word the first of the script.
Yes.
You know why? Because the show doesn't come out until September.
So please hold your pitchforks and torches until then.
Thank you.
Good Lord. I mean, I can understand that there are some people who are Tolkien fans who are probably also Robert Jordan fans who are already mad as hell right now about the Wheel of Time. So they're probably trying to beat this before it gets started. I get it. Nerd rage is a thing. I've had plenty of it in my life.
Same.
Does not change the fact that you are losing your damned minds over something so insignificant. It makes all of us look friggin' terrible. All of us. Not just black people, not just white people, not just Asians, not just Hispanics, not just Pacific Islanders, not just any particular group. It makes all of us who carry the fandom that goes along with this. People who are fans of fantasy, people who are fans of comics, people who are fans of good writing. You are making us all look horrible because you can't deal with the fact that two characters have dark skin. Cannot understand that. Call me whatever you want. I don't really care. You are wrong for this. Yes. You are wrong for this, period. Because there's no reason to be this upset about that. No reason. Another personal example. When I first saw the character designs for She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, I grew up watching He-Man and She-Ra. I friggin' loved that mess. And when I saw how the characters were designed, I said, why? Why is this what they're doing now? I was upset. I was seriously not happy with the way the characters looked. And then I watched the show years later because I refused to watch it because I was like, I don't like it. I don't think that it's going to be good. So I stepped up. I bowed the frick out. But I sat and I watched it. I watched all 5 seasons of this show back to back in a week because it was that well made.
Ew.
Even though the character designs weren't what I particularly would have liked, the characters were written well, the story was fleshed out, and there was actual drama to the whole thing. Okay? Yes, there were diverse characters of color. There were LGBT characters. There was one non-binary character that was in there. Didn't matter. Did not matter. What mattered was that the series took a story that I grew up with, gave it legs, and let it run. Were there things I didn't like? Yes, but they were story elements, not characters who were just there to tick a box. They weren't there to just tick a box. Every character that was in that show were rebirths of characters from the original series. And I remember going back and forth comparing what they looked like in the 80s to what they looked like in the current show. And I was amused as hell at the fact that the current show looked like actual people. Like people I have seen on the street, people who I have talked to in bars, people who I have served at my many different jobs. But if you look at any of the characters from She-Ra, Princess of Power, from 1985, you would never meet anyone who looks like this unless they've had some work done. Just a fact.
So it's almost like you gave it a chance.
Yeah, how about that? And I was pleasantly surprised, which many of you who have written these ridiculously stupid ass comments might be if you give it a shot. Yes, there is a chance you might not like how everything is done, but being like, oh, this is immediately going to be black because a nigga elf. That's where the problem is. It ain't the people who were doing the casting. It's you folks that are giving everybody a hard time over something that doesn't actually matter.
I guess that's part of what my frustration is about the stuff that I was reading and seeing, is because a lot of the stuff that they're blowing out of proportion could very well just be nothing more than background text. It's lorem ipsum, and they're making it seem like war were declared.
This is another reason why opinions are important, but it's also important to have some understanding of where your opinions may come. Because yes, an opinion is something that is closely held, but having the ability to be aware enough of yourself to say, I feel this way because is important, instead of just saying the equivalent of fake and gay on the first.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I want to be excited about this. I want, to see where it's going to go. I want to be able to enjoy my fandom. I want to be able to sit my 5-year-old nephew down when he's old enough and say, hey, this is a show that, here's a piece of, my fandoms that I enjoy. I want you to be able to enjoy this with me. And I want him to be able to look at that TV screen and see somebody that looks like him and be able to feel like, oh, I belong in this world. I can enjoy this because this is something that's not just another show. There's somebody like me here. And that's not something that's necessarily going to impact him immediately, but even just the subtleness of being able to see one person like them doing something that they've been told, oh, well, you don't do that because insert usually racist, stupid statement here, is enough to destroy people's dreams and destroy them psychologically. And maybe some people can live with that kind of knowledge, knowing that they've, go about their lives, happily, that they've destroyed somebody else psychologically and emotionally. But I don't necessarily know that I want to own that, I want to be able to show him that just because somebody decides to have diversity in something doesn't mean that it's woke. It doesn't mean that it's, just for him. I just want him to be able to see somebody like him. What did his grandmother fight for in the civil rights movement, if not for him to be able to see people like himself on TV?
Exactly.
What discriminations have I put up with, since I've been, alive, for him to not be able to see that. You know, what kind of discrimination did his great grandmother put up with, or his great grandparents? Because as much as we all like to pretend that the civil rights movement is a thing of the past, we're forgetting that that was less than 60 years ago. My grandmother was over 80 years old when she passed away. You know what that means? That means that she, as the youngest child in her family, was alive at a time when people who were born in slavery were still alive. Let's reflect on that for a moment. What were they fighting for? Normally, that isn't something that really gets me mad, but if you really think about it, we are talking about less than 200 years ago in the past. Less than. Let's think about that for a minute.
I think about that all the time.
Yeah, Jim Crow laws didn't go away until the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
50s. This is 2022, which means it has not even been a century since those laws were repealed.
Mm-hmm. I think about those kind of things all the time because my mother was born in 1947. She used to tell me about how she and one of my aunts would walk to school together and literally fought to school, fought in school, and fought home from school every single day. My father was born in 1960. He was 5 years old when the Civil Rights Act was finally signed. Knowing that there are people that were in my life, that influenced my life, who not only were alive during that period of time, but were developing during that period of time, does a lot to me. My grandfather was 94 years old when he died. He was born in 1914. He got to see all of this mess change, all of it. But he still was cautious to teach us that just because things look different doesn't mean everything is. My grandmother, who passed in 2020, was 97 years old. She literally saw it all. Okay? She watched as all of her 11 children had to deal with all of this mess. Okay? All of the things that go on because, for whatever the reason is, people who have darker skin are seen as not being worthy of being Americans. She watched as all of that happened. She experienced all of that and fought through it. So yes, I reflect on it as well. Every single one of us at one point or another has to, because we experience it whether we think we do or don't.
Yep. My mother is 2 years younger than yours, and she has told me many times about the various times that they moved across country where they've had to sleep in the car because they were not allowed to stay in hotels because they were a Black family. They owned a copy of the Green Book, you know, that fun little movie with Viggo Mortensen in it. They had to have one of those so they could safely travel across country. So I'm sorry if you're a little butthurt because there are 2 brown people in a TV show.
It shows how different things are now, that we can speak about these kinds of things, but it also shows how much still needs to change, that this is still a friggin' topic.
Yeah, and normally we don't do episodes this serious because this is vaguely political and it bugs me, but you know what? It needs to be said. This is the worst kind of gatekeeping, and I'm going to keep harping on this like an angel with multiple sclerosis, because I'm sorry, I cannot, and I will not put up with gatekeeping. It's disgusting and it's horrible. I don't care if the gatekeeping is because you're being ableist. I don't care if the gatekeeping is because you're racist. I don't care if it's because you're sexist. I don't care if it's because you're homophobic or transphobic or anything else. All of those are you problems, and you need to work on yourself. But I despise gatekeeping. Who assigned you to stop other people from enjoying things? Who gave you that power?
And I run with you on this because when I first started getting into anime and I thought of it as being my thing, and when other people started to get into it and enjoy it, instead of saying, oh wow, there are other people that are like me, for a long while I was the one that said, oh, you're not really a fan if you don't do X, Y, and Z. Oh, you're not really a fan because you like this and not that. Oh, you're not really a fan if you're not watching it in the original Japanese. You're not. I used to do that all the time. And when I realized how much of an asshole I was being, I said to myself, how are we supposed to have more fans of things if this is how we're acting? And if I can make those kinds of decisions, so can you. Every person who is listening to this, who agrees with us or not, you have the ability to choose to be awesome or choose to be an asshole. Please do the former, because that's how things get better.
You want to see something that you love grow. If you want to see something that you love be enjoyed by more people, the gatekeeping has to stop. There is literally no good reason for it. I'm sorry. It's just, there is no reasonable explanation for it.
The only way that we get greater, the only way that we make our fandoms better, the only way that we keep the things that we love from being destroyed by hate is by loving each other with it. Not saying that we have to run around and chant about how everyone gets along, because that's not human.
And I don't expect people to link arms and sing Kumbaya. That's not what I'm talking about.
Very true. But giving people the ability to enjoy what they enjoy, whether you agree or disagree, is all that we need to make this better for everybody. So that someone who maybe didn't grow up in a period of time where they saw themselves in every show that they saw, or people who are growing up with diversity being around them all the time, it shouldn't matter. They should still be able to enjoy the same spaces without worrying about whether or not somebody's going to lose their friggin' mind. And yes, I understand, well, people shouldn't be so offended. Think about the why, though. That's where the whole problem is. It's the why. People don't have to have thicker skin. The people who are saying ridiculous things need to realize that what they're saying in this period of time where we know so much more about the way shit is, why are these things still being said? Maybe think about where it came from for you.
Yes, I don't often quote the Bible, but this falls under physician, heal thyself.
That is only a few words, but that's heavy. Heavy.
All right, I'm tired of talking about this. Let's get out of here.
Absolutely. If you would like to see more of what we do, we have our link tree at linktr.ee/Little Old People Podcast. Okay. You can find all of our social media. You can also find where you can listen to our podcast. And of course, we are on Google Podcasts. We are also on, are we still on Stitcher?
Yes.
Okay. We are still on Stitcher. We are still on Sounder as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're catching up too. Don't feel bad. If you want to tweet at us, we are on Twitter at Little OP Podcast. We are on Facebook at Little OP Podcast. Little OP Podcast, because my tongue doesn't like me. And if you want to send us an email and tell us how great or terrible we may have been, please send us an email at littleoldpeoplepodcast@gmail.com.
I'm QB Mythos. He's been Mark.
We
are your nerd hosts, coast to coast, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
This has been a Little Old People Podcast production.